Why you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Shut up, man.
Watch me beat up this little kid. Let me see.
Wait, it's still. Oh, move up.
Let me see.
Move.
See the video?
Wait, nigga. Why are you hitting yourself?
Watch me kill this. Watch me kill it. Drop it.
You suck, man.
Boy.
Throw it on the ground. Stop, y'all. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
Tonight we have new video. It gives us a closer look at a school bus beating in Pinellas County earlier this month. The attack you're seeing here left a 6th grader with 2 black eyes and a fractured hand. Police arrested 3 teenagers, but there are still questions about whether the bus driver could have done more to stop the attack. News Channel 8's Yolanda Fernandez has new information on this investigation.
Gulfport police recently released surveillance video from the school bus that shows the driver's perspective of the beating that day. In the video from July 9th, the victim is the one sitting in the 2nd seat of the Pinellas school bus with his head down. The violence starts as soon as he stands up to get off the bus. The bus driver, John Moody, yells for somebody to try to stop them and calls for help. The punches and kicks continue, and the victim falls between the seats. At one point, you can hear his screams. Then he again calls dispatch to verify the address.
No, you got to get somebody here quick. They're about to beat this boy to death over here. Please get somebody here quick. And they still do it. I know what I can do. You got to get somebody in a hurry.
According to Pinellas school bus driver policy, the driver's first duty is to call dispatch and only has to step in if he thinks it's safe and he's not required to intervene. But in an earlier interview, Gulfport Police Chief Robert Vincent said Moody took no action to help the victim even after the teens left the bus.
There was clearly an opportunity or check on the welfare of the children in this case, or the child in this case, and he didn't make any effort to do so. So that's what we want to bring to the attention of the prosecutor.
Gulfport police investigators met with prosecutors last week to turn over this video as evidence on a possible child neglect charge. Now it's in the hands of the state attorney's office to determine whether the school bus driver will be charged. In Gulfport, Yolanda Fernandez, News Channel 8.
Hard to watch. Police did charge 3 teenagers with felony aggravated battery in that attack.
When she got back from the hospital with a bullet wound to her leg, Sherry West invited me into her living room, still littered with items belonging to her baby boy, Antonio. The 13-month-old was killed in cold blood right in front of her just a few hours earlier in a robbery attempt by a couple of kids.
And he said, "I'm going to kill you if you don't give me your money." And I said, I swear I don't have any.
She was walking her child in a stroller just yards from her Brunswick, Georgia home at about 9 in the morning.
2 boys approached me, and they were 2 African-American boys, and one of them was about 15.
She says the other boy appeared younger than 10 years old, and the older one pointing a handgun.
He says, "Well, I'm going to kill your baby." And I said, "Please don't kill my baby."
Chilling words from the children. Little Antonio's father tells me he wishes he could have been there to protect his family.
He was so special, got the bluest eyes.
Sadly, little Antonio was asleep in his stroller at the time. Would never open those eyes again.
I put my arms over my baby and he shoves me. And then he shot my baby right in the head.
West said she began CPR on her little boy's lifeless body as she tried to bring life back into her boy. She wondered to herself how a couple of boys could get their hands on a real gun.
But when I saw him shoot my baby and my baby died, I knew that it was real.
But why? Why my little one? You know, you should have just taken a pocketbook and go.
Liberal and feminist movements, Mrs. Poupel.
I would like to, for a moment, ask you some questions about the economics of job getting in terms of the blacks versus the whites. The statistics I was able to pull together indicate that at the present time, white males make $17,427 on an average basis for the year. Black males make $12,738. White females make $10,244, and black females make $9,476. It is clear from these figures, as indeed I think it's clear to most of us from what we see, that there is a discrimination against blacks and against women in our present system. Since not all blacks will be superior, how would you try to even that out so that there would be some equality of job opportunities?
I'm sorry you missed the earlier part of the program when I pointed out that where you find people not represented evenly, that does not show the institutional effect, because almost nowhere in human affairs do you find people evenly represented. Well, if you compare comparable people with respect to age, with respect to education, etc., you get a totally different picture, both with respect to blacks and women. Now, the figures that I saw, for example, show more recently that if you take black families where the husband and wife are both college educated and compare them to a white family where the husband and wife are both college educated, the black family is now earning $2,000 a year more. The problem is that very few blacks fall in that category. That when you compare category for category, then we're talking about getting people a decent education. I'm saying that you cannot say that numbers collected at the employer's place of business reflect simply the employer's policies. Those numbers reflect underlying conditions in the whole society, just as numbers collected at the hospital do not show you that the people are sick because they're in the hospital.
No, I would agree with that, but you would also have to agree that, generally speaking, women are paid less, for example, for the same jobs as men.
No, I would not. I would not agree with that. If you're talking about women with the same number of years of experience, with the same continuous service, et cetera, then when I look at that, I don't find that disparity. I find, for example, in many cases, the women are making more, depending upon how you break the data down. The difference with women is between married women and everybody else. That's the real difference.
Well, even as to single women, the Census Bureau statistics, the most recent ones I could find, 1978, say that single men are earning $11,100 and single women are earning $9,300.
Yes, I love the word single that is used. When I did my study, I didn't use single, I used never married. You see, a woman who is single at age 40, having spent 10 or 20 years raising children, is really not quite the same as a man of age 40 who's been working continuously for 20 years.
And the differential she cited is not that great, so it could easily be accounted for by the
Yes, because when I break them down the other way, I did this for the academic world, and there I found the women who are never married, which is the term the way I take it, there they were earning more than the men. And similarly, when the government did data some years ago on women who had been working continuously since high school into their 30s, there you found that they were making slightly more than men of the same description. So the difference is between married women and everybody else. And married men get an extra bonus because their wives take care of many things that enable them to put more time into their careers.
I'm sure you're aware of the fact that there are approximately 15% of all homes in which there is only one wage earner. So that when you talk about women being able to take care of things for their married mate wage earner, the fact is that in the overwhelming majority of American homes, the women also work. And therefore, I don't think your explanation that women have other responsibilities and that that's why they are...
Work can mean part-time work or full-time work. Women do not work full-time to the same extent that men. Part-time workers make less than full-time workers.
Obama will incite and oversee both a race and class war that will be violent, that will lead to many fatalities. Blood will run in the streets of America, many of its courts, and also within its prisons and schools. Schools in particular, where blood will stream down the hallways and the steps and out into the streets. Obama has now the power and has been sent to create race and class wars here in America. Mohamed Morsi, who is now the dictator, the ruler of the nation of Egypt, was elected in June by a major vote with the strength of the Muslim Brotherhood, has now declared himself ultimate and supreme, and that no decision that he makes can be questioned by any part of the Egyptian government or its judiciary or any of its business or any of the Egypt's alliances. Now, this was inspired by the Obama administration, and I'm going to continue to put Anderson Cooper and CNN in the mix that put Mohamed Morsi in power. But the scrimmage between Gaza and Hamas going back a few days ago was nothing more than a Trojan horse and an opportunity for Obama to bring Mohamed Morsi to the world stage in a tinderbox in one of the most volatile places on this planet, the Middle East, and one of the most sought-after areas of land, Israel, by the Palestinians against the people of God, the children of God, Israel. Now, having said all of that, martial law has now been declared over Egypt and over Egypt and Israel subsequently, and subsequently over America. But let me get to the heart of the matter here. At present, the voting stats that were tallied over the last election that put Obama back in illegally demonstrated that it was the minority votes that united with other minorities and the women's vote that gave Obama his second term win to the illegal office of president here in America. Latinos voted 70%. African Americans voted as much as 93 to 98%. And then women voted as much as 60 to 70%. Unmarried women voted as much as 60 to 70%. And then you have the LGBT vote as much as 80 to 90% that voted for Obama. And of course, you had some Jewish vote for Obama as well. And then you have the liberal vote of those people that hate America for what she stands for that also voted for Obama. But the truth of the matter is, and we're going to cover in more detail in another commentary, is that the white society in America is shrinking. It is dying. There just aren't as many white people to rule America as it was going back a generation ago. There are just fewer. White women are not having babies. White women are not getting married. White men are not getting married until well on in their careers or age. And then when they do so, they're not having children. This is having a catastrophic effect upon the white population. They are now a minority. But this just isn't happening in America. It's happening in France. It's happening in the UK. It's happening in Germany. It's happening wherever the European once dominated. He is now finding himself more and more and increasingly becoming a minority, especially principles that allow Muslims and Latinos to venture into their lands. I'm here to say that we should not be looking simply at Iran or China as an enemy to destroy America. No, our enemy is just a few miles south of us here in Mexico. Mexico is a very large nation with a very large population, with one of the largest cities on the planet, Mexico City, with a single city population of nearly 30 million people. They're the youngest nation between 18 and 39. They're constantly having babies and children, and they're teething, chomping at the bit at the borders of America to overrun this nation. There is no way we're going to stop the influx, the floodgate of Latinos coming in and taking over America. Well, Obama has tapped into this. He understands it. He clearly has used the Latino vote. Without it, he could not have won as illegally as he did the last election. But in order to make this happen, the white American society will realize that they're losing. Their taxes are going to fund programs. Their taxes are going to pay for the well-being, the housing, the food, the Cadillacs, the Escalades, the drugs, and everything else that minorities are using. That minorities don't have to work. They can simply vote the taxes out of the wealthy white people, the few remaining that are here. White people are then going to look up and say, we're not going to take this anymore. We just can't stand this. And by the way, what do we have to lose? Now, a large number of people have already left America. They're moving to South America. They're moving to Europe. They're moving to places where they believe that they can be safe because they can no longer live in America under Obama. But they're also moving because they realize that they no longer rule this nation. It's just a matter of course now before you see the riots in the streets. You're going to see more and more altercation between young blacks and young whites. More of the Trayvon Martin kinds of situations that are going to continue to go on where whites feel threatened, where whites feel intimidated, and fights are going to break out, which will lead to marches and protests, which will lead to more riots, especially within the schools. This, my friend, is inevitable. Also, at the close and just before the last election, and certainly after it was determined that Obama had illegally won a second term, gun sales went off the charts. Black people weren't buying guns, they already have them. It was white people that were buying guns to protect themselves. The problem is that you can individually shoot a couple of people, but how can you shoot a mob that burns and ravages and runs through a neighborhood, and the police are intimidated at the process, where they have been weakened by the fact that the Obama administration has set forth laws to intimidate them, to keep them from arresting, allowing prisoners and violent blacks and others and Latinos to go free, allowing gang members to run amok throughout communities. We're going to see now something, a phenomenon that we have not seen before. One is that we're going to see blacks very aggressively marching towards white neighborhoods. But you're all going to see the rise of white groups that are already now in planning. They've already organized that will march towards black communities. Obama has set this in order. He has come to set it in order. He has come to destroy America. He has come to destroy. This is not going to be a civil war. It is going to be another revolution where the minorities will take this nation from the whites that presently now rule it. The 47% that Mitt Romney alluded to, those are the ones that will fight against the white establishment and the white order. There is no getting around this, my friend. You need to learn how to protect yourself. It is very obvious that only the strong survive. And right now, though the white minority, who used to be the majority, have more power, more influence, that power and influence is being undermined in the courts, in the prison systems, in the schools, and other places that where wielding that power gave them greater influence. But numerically now, man to man, if you're going to fight a war of attrition between blacks and whites, the minorities are going to win. And they're going to win hands down. And while the African Americans are certainly ones to be concerned about, the major group to be concerned about are the Latinos, those from La Raza and from other groups, those coming up out of Mexico, those who believe that this land belonged to them in the first place, at least the southern part of America. So what we're looking at now, and Obama understands this. He understands this is not something that's happening haphazardly. This is something that Obama is working to do. He is working the program. He is working the government. He's working the Congress, the courts, the academia. He's working big business to the point whereby, listen, let me say something to you, that the leaders in La Raza and some to some degree in the African American understanding know that they can shut America down in one day. If every American that's a minority decided not to go to work for 2 days, the businesses that are owned by the minority whites who have power, influence politically, and money would be ruined. The stock market would sink. It would crash below the 1929 numbers, and businesses would go off the chart. People would move businesses out of America when the people who decided, who were minorities, or those who are now minority majority, I should call them, decided to return to work, there'd be no place to return to work to. And La Raza has already done this in California. They did it several years ago. They're going to do it again. And Obama's going to incite them to do it again. Obama realizes now that that America no longer belongs to white people. He understands that. He knows that clearly. Well, now, what are the options? Well, first of all, let's understand that white people are not going to sit back and just let this happen. They're going to mount a credible, if you will, viable, if you must, attack upon the cities, the inner cities, upon the schools, and upon the areas where these ideas are festering, and are going to do their best. But Obama's going to tie their hands. He's going to march out the military against them. He's going to arrest them. He's going to suspend their business activities, call in their mortgages, and bankrupt many of their financial institutions. That is how Obama's going to fight the white establishment. There'll be many guerrilla-type fighters that will come up out of the hills of Tennessee and out of Kentucky and out of Texas and come up out of Idaho. There'll be many that will fight guerrilla style. By the time we see how the year 2016 roll in, the advent of 2015, largely this depends on what happens with Mohammed Morsi. I think if you're going to know how America will respond to Obama's intent to divide, to cause race and class wars, have blood running in the streets, watch what happens now. We'll take our cues from what happens in Egypt with Mohammed Morsi, who has already declared what Obama will declare. Obama will suspend the Constitution. He will do it, my friends. He will suspend the powers of the judicial branches of our government. He will suspend business practices. He will suspend those things and will have absolute unreviewable dictator rules once these two groups start going at one another. And both groups will fight gallantly, valiantly, and fiercely. Both groups will fight. Blood will run in the streets. We need to now learn how to protect ourselves. What can we do? Well, there's only one thing that we can do in this matter, is to preempt this event from taking place. And I want you to hear me now and hear me carefully in this matter. There's only one thing that we can do. Blood is going to run in the streets. Blacks and Latinos and whites are going to fight one another, gun battles, knife battles, burnings, looting, towns, businesses, strikes, work, all kinds of various implements of destruction will be deployed here in America over the next couple of years. There's no way that we're going to avoid this. There's no way. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. It has happened to some degree in France and in Europe. It's going to happen more so. We're going to see it in Greece and we're going to see it in Egypt. We can't avoid it. We can't avoid it. The wise thing to do is this, is that we need to take the lead and to preserve the heritage of both the Latinos and the African Americans in this nation by taking Obama down, who has the supreme powers to promote this river, to promote this stream, to promote this destructive river that is flowing across America. Without him at the head, negotiations could be done. We can bring in level-headed people from all of these groups and begin to negotiate a peace in America where all people can live in harmony. We can take a closer look at Mexico and understand that Mexico is a greater threat than China. Mexico is a greater threat than Al-Qaeda. Mexico is a greater threat than Islamic infiltration. That we need to look carefully at the fact that Mexico is the greatest threat that we have to American stability and to our Constitution. We need to understand that. But we can't do that as long as Obama is wielding power and the people that are supporting him, including the media. We must take Obama down. And you don't have to take the entire media down. Take down Fox News, which is a two-faced sellout. My friends, you need to hear me. You need to hear me, or you're going to hear the footsteps of Latinos and blacks in your backyard, breaking in your windows, coming through your patios, throwing Molotov cocktails into your living room, burning your cars. You either hear me or you're going to hear that. No one else is going to tell you the truth on this matter. There's an opportunity here. We must bring Obama to court. We must bring him to trial for being ineligible for the crimes he's committed, for the treason that he has done. And right now, Obama is at his weakest point. The last election demonstrated that a large number of black pastors and church leaders realize that they have been pimped and duped by Obama, and they have abdicated support for him. None of the major players came out. You didn't see Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison. Jesse Jackson showed up in Ohio, but that was just for show. The only real black leadership that Obama has with him now are young black women between 18 and 29 who don't lead. Not even black men are following Obama, but it's these lonely, depressed, sexually depraved, sex-crazed black women between 18 and 29. Al Sharpton is the only other visible leader. Most black leaders, including Louis Farrakhan. So right now, Obama does not have the support of the black community as one might think that he does. And there are many black leaders who privately are saying they wish that they could take him down, or like Jesse Jackson said in the 2008 election, that wish you could cut off his cojones. There are many black leaders that are privately saying that. If they could see a strong white opposition to Obama to actually go at him criminally, go at him for treason, have him arrested, have Senate hearings, have court trials, you would find that many black leaders would stand. And then you can take those same black leaders and sit down and negotiate with Latinos and blacks how America can now move forward. But we're on the railroad track now, the promontory point of where there's going to be riots, blood running in the streets. The only option, you're going to have that if you arrest Obama, you're going to have riots. You're going to have blood running in the street if you arrest him and bring him to trial. You're going to have that. You're just going to have it far worse if you don't do it. You're damned if you do, and you're double dog damned if you don't. Obama must be arrested. He has sat in power. He has sat in power like Mohammed Morsi has now done. And you're going to see the pressure put on Israel. Right now, there's a division in among the Israeli people, the liberals, the conservatives, the Likud party, and others, where many are ready to now give up the land of Israel, turn it over, let it become Palestine, and the Jews will flee again to wherever places they think they can flee to. My friends, we are in the apocalyptic Armageddon state. We need to realize there's only one solution to save America, and that is Obama must be brought to trial for the criminal charges, for the criminal acts that he has done, and not only him, but large segments of the media and large segments of the political class that have protected him and that stood with him. Otherwise, America will become a Mexico, or America will become a nation that fell like Rome, because it failed to realize the leadership of America was set for its destruction and Barack Hussein Obama. Heed my warnings. If you don't heed them, your house will be burned, your daughter will be raped, your schools, your towns, your businesses will be confiscated, the IRS will come after you, and there'll be no future. We have one prayer on, and that prayer is, under the banner of the blood of the Lord Jesus Christ, that Obama be arrested and brought to trial. I want to at least tell you again, to remind you that you can listen to the Manning Report 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I want to encourage you as well to go to our website and check out all the things that's happening with the Outlaw people, and that's the Outlaw World site at outlaw.org. And don't forget to make your contributions at this time of the year. This is the end of the year. We want to continue to remind people of the end of the year giving, so that you can get tax write-offs for your giving to a charitable organization such as Outlaw Ministries. And the new tax laws that are going to hit the land pretty soon, you're going to need tax write-offs.
I want to begin, though, with a conservative radio host who calls the Zimmerman trial a sideshow. Larry Elder is the host of The Larry Elder Show on KABC and also the author of Dear Father, Dear Son, and he joins me now. Larry Elder, welcome to you.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You've been pretty scathing about my interview with Rachel Jeantel. Why?
I was, because you weren't doing her any favors by condescendingly trying to convince her that she's a victim. This is a young lady who didn't apply herself, a 19-year-old who's still in high school. Instead of saying, young lady, take this as an opportunity to take stock of your life, you treated her like she was a victim. And that's how you're doing this whole thing about race and racism. 7,000 murders last year, Pierce, of black people. Almost all of those were committed by black people. Since Trayvon Martin has his unfortunate death, there have been 480 blacks killed in Chicago alone. 75% of those crimes have been unsolved. Where are the cameras? Where are the shows? It's outrageous to act as if black America should fear some non-black guy stalking some black kid at night. The likelihood of a black person being killed by a non-black person is extremely remote, which is why this became a big national issue in the first place, Pierce.
Right. It's perfectly possible, as we have shown on this show many times, to be just as exercised by what is happening in Chicago, which is an absolute national disgrace to America, frankly, in terms of the outlandish.
But you're not, Pierce.
No, but I am.
There's 7,000 murders last year.
I don't think you watched my show, Larry.
Wait a minute. Half of the crimes.
I don't think you watched my show.
half of the murders in this country are committed by black people, even though black people are 12% of the population, which means 6% of the population is committing almost half the murders. And you throw out the old people and the young people, Pierce, you're talking about 3% of the population committing almost 50% of the murders.
Fine.
This is
the
why
point I was going to make,
commonsensical people
Larry,
profile.
if you just calm down for a moment, Larry, here's the point I was going to make.
I'm quite calm. I'm just bothered by how you're handling all
Larry,
of this, making black
let
feel
me
as if
speak,
they're under
Larry.
siege. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Larry,
you're a liberal guy, bleeding heart liberal person. You think you're doing something for black people. You're not. You're making black people feel as if they're under siege. And it's not true. It's an outrage.
Thank you, Larry. If I could just get a word in, that would be great.
Sure.
Here's my point. I completely agree with everything you're saying about Chicago. All right, let's just get that on the table. I've been saying this repeatedly on this show. It's a disgrace what's happening in Chicago, particularly with all these young black teenagers killing other young black teenagers. And the president and people down have to deal with it. But let's get back to the Zimmerman trial. Let's get back to my interview with Rachel Gentile, because you tweeted some ridiculous things. You tweeted at one stage, would I like Rachel Gentile to fly my plane? Why would you say that?
I'll tell you why I said that, Pierce. I'll tell you why I said that, because after you interviewed her, you condescendingly went on television the next morning and called her one smart cookie. Bull. Why don't you hire her as a nanny? Let's see how smart she is. It's a condescending kind of thing
that
a lot of white people say to black people. I think you're stupid for saying that kind of thing to try to get black people.
That wasn't my question.
That race and racism.
Do you think Rachel Gentile is
when it doesn't?
Do you think she's stupid, Larry?
In America anymore, Pierce. Racism is not a major problem in America anymore. The number one problem facing black people are the large number of black people born outside of wedlock. 75%. In 1960, 5% of all people in this country were born outside of wedlock. Fast forward, Pierce, the number now is 43%. You look at that for crime, dropouts, all that kind of stuff is connected. The other big problem facing black America, Pierce, is the economy. 1 in 2 black men does not have a job. And one of the heads of the Congressional Black Caucus once said, if a white person were in the White House, we'd be marching on the place because of the high unemployment. But we're talking about Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman as if it's the number one problem facing black America. It isn't even remotely on the top 10 list.
Okay, Larry. Larry, this isn't a sort of competition to see who can be the greatest filibuster in my show's history.
I'm not trying to filibuster. I'm just trying to make some common sense. I'm not hearing on your show.
Let me just get back to the question I asked you and see if you can actually answer the question. Do you think that Rachel Gentile is stupid?
I think that I would rather have a George Zimmerman living in my neighborhood, and maybe if George Zimmerman were living in my neighborhood, we'd have fewer Oreo Castros. I thought we wanted people to be proactive. I thought we wanted people to see something, say something. I know, I'm answering something different that ought to be answered.
Could you just answer my question?
George Zimmerman like he's some sort of criminal. He's not a criminal. He's
George
a guy
Zimmerman
who cares about his neighborhood.
Shot dead an unarmed
He's a guy who cares
teenager.
about his neighborhood. He's a neighborhood watch guy. Don't you want people who are proactive? And there was crime in that neighborhood, Pierce. I live in South Central.
There wasn't crime from Trayvon Martin in that neighborhood.
The burglar bars are not on there because of George Zimmerman. They're on there because of the minority of thug in the community that's messing up everybody's image and reputation. This is why people profile. Instead of being angry at George Zimmerman, be angry at the minority in these kinds of crimes.
Okay, if I could jump in again. So just to clarify, though, Trayvon Martin wasn't committing crimes in that neighborhood, was he?
It was an unfortunate incident. 2 people had preconceived notions about each other. It never should have been happened. Doesn't make George Zimmerman a criminal. I used to work in the DA's office, Pierce. I'm telling you, it was a dog case, a reasonable doubt case. Nobody I know would have filed the case.
Yeah, well, we disagree, obviously, about that. I think it's completely wrong. George Zimmerman should get no punishment at all for killing an unarmed teenager.
He's got serious punishment. He can't go anywhere. Are you kidding? He's a marked man. Well, he's going to be sued civilly. He will never have a moment of peace. He got to deal with that, Pierce. He recognizes that. He's not an
Larry, if I may
he
respond,
recognizes what he did.
If I may respond,
sure.
You know, some people would say that he's got it easy compared to Trayvon Martin, who he killed. So much as people feel sorry for George Zimmerman not being able to lead the life perhaps he wished he could, at least he can lead a life. At least he can lead a life. Wouldn't it have been nice to have had a George Zimmerman in Cleveland and maybe Oreo I don't want
Castro
George Zimmerman doing my neighborhood watch patrol. No, I don't.
10 years,
I don't. I've got 3 teenage sons, Larry. I don't feel comfortable having somebody like George Zimmerman marching around as some wannabe vigilante, armed with a gun, potentially killing my kids as they come home from a store with a bag of Skittles and a can of soda. No, I don't. I don't feel comfortable.
You live in a wealthy neighborhood, gated community, plenty of security. You don't have to worry about that. Live in South Central. Come down to South Central sometime. See what's going on down there. They're not worried about George Zimmerman. They're not worried about Mark Furman. They're worried about the thug down the street coming from a single-parent household. And that situation has been created by the left-wing people like you who feel sorry for people, and therefore you want government to take care of them. If you think government is the way to help you, and prosperity. Go to an Indian reservation sometime and see how they're living.
Okay, Larry, I do feel sorry for some people. That is true. I wasn't aware that was a terrible offence. But let me get back to Rachel Jeantel again, because you were very scathing.
You were scathing. The wrong things to do, Piers.
Larry, let me speak.
Larry, you recommend the wrong things to do. If you tell people, "Oh, I feel sorry for you. Oh, this person's a bigot. Oh, this person shouldn't have cross-examined you the way he did," then all you're doing is creating a victim. You're telling Rachel Jeantel that she shouldn't have to work hard. She shouldn't have to work on her diction. She shouldn't have to improve her grammar. Just have her wave the flag of victimhood, and she'll be perfectly okay. It is an outrage that the left has done to black people, and you are part of this parade.
Thank you, Larry. Just out of interest, how many languages do you speak?
I don't speak Ebonics as well as Rachel, if that's what you mean.
No, how many languages do you speak was the question.
And the relevance of that is what?
You don't think she's a smart cookie. She speaks 3 languages fluently. How many do you speak?
Oh, really? You think she's a smart cookie? So you want to bring it back to Rachel. That's not what we're talking about
I
here,
think
Piers.
you've been...
We're talking about
I want to bring it back to Rachel, because that was why I booked you, Larry.
How you treated black people like children to whom the truth cannot be told. Rachel Jeantel needs to get her act together. If my mother were alive, she would say, how dare she speak like that?
Do you know her educational background, Larry?
When I was in the 3rd grade, I know how she presented herself on the jury.
Larry, do you know her educational background or not?
People evaluate you based on the way you express yourself.
Larry, do you know her educational background? This woman, this young 19-year-old black woman that you are eviscerating for her lack of intelligence, do you have any idea about her background?
Why don't you hire her if she's so sharp as a co-host?
That wasn't the question, Larry.
She's one smart cookie.
Do you
Why don't you hire
know
her
her educational background? Yes or no?
I know how she came across on the jury. That's all I need to know.
That wasn't my question, Larry. Do you know anything?
Why are we even talking about this?
Because actually, I think it's relevant.
Let's talk about something. Let
me enlighten you, Larry. I booked you to talk about Rachel Jeantel.
Black America. Yeah. Let's talk about whether or not white racism is a major problem for black America. It is not. You are implying that it is. It is not. As we speak, there's a guy in prison right now in Phoenix, a black guy in an SUV with his fiancée, killed a Hispanic who cut in front of him. He wasn't arrested right away. Had the Hispanic family not agitated, the guy may never have been arrested. Where are the cameras?
Larry.
But you have some white guy do something, or some non-white guy do something to a black person, we want to march on Washington.
Larry, let me just...
Piers. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Larry, thank you. If I could just bring you up to speed on Rachel Jeantel, this woman that you think is so stupid. She actually suffered from...
I didn't say stupid, you did.
She actually suffered. We checked this with her lawyer today before I interviewed you, because this is why I booked you, of course, even though you're trying to pretend now this is the last thing you want to talk about. That is why I booked you. Rachel Jeantel, when she was young at school, had a lot of time off school and fell behind because of illness. That was why she wasn't able to go to school. She was actually doing very well. She was at B grade at high school until her great friend Trayvon Martin was shot dead by George Zimmerman. Wait a minute. I haven't finished.
She sounded to you like somebody you want to hire in any kind of capacity?
Her grades have since slipped to 2-something because of the stress that she suffered, understandably, from the death of her friend Trayvon. She's now been offered a chance by Tom Joyner and his people from his foundation to go to college. She wants to get those grades back up and make something of herself. Why would you? I think
that's wonderful, Piers.
Why would you be so scathing about Rachel Jeantel and so patronizing to a young woman who's clearly been through an appalling ordeal, and who, when I interviewed her, I found to be a smart cookie, like I said. I found her to be fun, warm, engaging, street smart, and clearly from her educational background, nowhere near as stupid as you like to think she is.
Once again, I never used the word stupid. You did. She was the most important witness in a murder trial. It was she was standing between George Zimmerman and 30 years in jail, and for you to act as if she was somehow abused by Don West, whose job was to make sure his client didn't go to jail, is outrageous. And as far as education is concerned, I applaud Mr. Joyner. He's done a lot of work in the black community for education, and I would recommend, Pierce, that we do something about the 50% dropout rate in the inner city, and about the fact that President Obama opposes allowing parents to use vouchers to get their kids out of bad government schools and into a better school so they can have a possibility to get to the middle class. That's what we ought to be talking about here, instead of some aberrant situation like George Zimmerman going to somebody that he thinks is suspicious, and they have an exchange, and there's an unfortunate death, as if somehow that's some sort of indictment of America, and black people should look over their shoulders every night and act as if some white guy is going to jump out of a bush and get them. It is outrageous. Hard work wins. Get an education. Don't pay attention to negative people, and stay focused, and you'll be okay in America. That's why most of the people in the world want to come here. That's why you want to come here, Pierce.
Thank you, Larry Elder.